Hello, greetings, and salutations. Welcome aboard my podcast. I am Jason with Jay's Paradise Travel. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. Today I'll be talking about my experience with the Ottawa Senators. This episode is actually going to be, to me, reminiscent of my episode that I talked about the Tennessee Volunteers. In a way that it was kind of similar in a sense of how I got to the game, saw the game, came back, and then and immediately talked about it in a sense. I'll get into that in just a moment. Before I do, just a little housekeeping. If you are interested in going on vacation, specifically a cruise, which is my specialty, or if you'd like to go see a game, such as the Ottawa Senators, you can contact me. There's a couple ways that you can do so. One is through social media. I have an Instagram and Facebook account. Both are the same. Jay's Paradise Travels. Jays, no apostrophe in that. Jay's Paradise Travels. You can look me up on either one of those platforms. Or you can reach out to me through email. My email address is j.paradise_travels@gmail.com. Either one of those ways you can reach out to me. I'd be happy to help book a trip for you. All right, so let's get into this week's episode about Ottawa. As I mentioned, this was very similar in my mind to when I went to see the Tennessee Volunteers, in the sense that when I went to go see the Tennessee Volunteers, and I had a podcast on it a while back, it was on a Saturday. I drove down to Knoxville, Tennessee, checked into a hotel, went from there to the game that evening. It was a night game. Came back to the hotel, stayed the night, and then the next morning on Sunday, drove back to Detroit, Michigan. I did something very similar with the Ottawa Senators. Both are around like a 7 to 8 hour drive, obviously in different directions. Tennessee is down south, and Ottawa's northeast of Detroit. Um, but the same thing happened on Saturday. Left, went to drive out there, checked in, went to the game, and drove back the next day. Now with Tennessee, as soon as I got home, I immediately came on the podcast and did it. This time I was going to do it, but then it just didn't get a chance to. So it's been a couple days since I saw the game. But in a sense of the similarity with Tennessee, I had no notes that day. I just was going off of memory. I was so excited to be home and share my experience with you that I didn't do any notes. And even though it's been a couple days, I'm kind of doing the same thing. Didn't write down any notes. It's just off the cuff, off the top of my head. I'll have some pictures that I'll look at maybe to spark a little bit of memory here and there. For the most part, this is going to be just me talking about it from what I remember here, and did have a good time. Um, and I'll be, starting from the beginning all the way to the end. Now, from the beginning, when I left, I'll put it this way: there's a couple things I'll mention even before the trip began. One of them was when deciding where to go to catch a game. There was another trip that I thought about maybe doing, but it just didn't come to fruition. So Ottawa was another venue that I thought of going, and it's within a day's drive. Now, like I said, it's about a 7 to 8 hour drive. And one thing that I have noticed about myself is I can do an 8 hour drive, if I'm the one driving. After that, I start. That's a little bit tougher for me. I start to struggle after 8 hours. I've done the 10 hour drive from some other places, which I'll have to talk about in another podcast. Some of the other teams I've seen, but that was a bit of a struggle for me. So eight, I'm good. I did reach out to some of my friends to see if they'd like to go, and either they were either busy that weekend, didn't have the money for it, whatever the case was. Not that it was overly expensive, but for just going there, seeing the game, coming right back, they may have wanted to use their money elsewhere, which is fine. That's understandable. I asked my dad, and my dad has gone with me quite a few games before. I guess maybe the going up to Canada, a little bit even colder area than we are, didn't really appeal to him. He was saying things like, "Oh, you're gonna go way up there, huh?" I'm thinking, dude, it's not Iceland. I'm not going. I'm not driving to Iceland. It's just Canada. It's not that bad. So, but yeah, he didn't really want to go either, and that's fine. So, my wife ended up coming with me. I don't even know if I asked. I may have just been like, "Hey, you're coming." No, I'm just kidding. I don't think I did that. But she's gone with me to games before, and she doesn't go to all of them. And when we first got married, she probably went to pretty much all of them I went to, but as time went on, she stopped going to all of them. But she ended up coming with me on this one, so I had somebody to go with. and she likes road trips too, from what I know of. Um, so yeah, we left. Our plan was to leave around 7 in the morning, and we got on the road probably about 7:10. So from where I am here in Detroit, I'm just a little south of Detroit. I always say Detroit because, you know, the city name that I live in, no one's ever heard of. So, but people know where Detroit is. So we live just a little south of the city. And you can get, if you're not familiar with Detroit or Michigan, um, you can get over to Canada over a bridge, and there's a customs agent there. It's something that some people do just on a daily commute, depending on their job. I haven't gone over the bridge in quite a while, but I have done it before. Um, so we left and went that way. Had a full tank of gas from the night before, so I don't have to worry about that right at the beginning. And we left early enough. It was Saturday. There wasn't hardly anyone on the road, which was kind of nice. So we got, to the bridge and we crossed the bridge. And once you cross the bridge, you get into Canada. Then, there's, you drive up and there's like a custom agent or whatever. That was a very smooth process. It ended up taking us, maybe 5 minutes. They asked us some things, what we're doing, what we're gonna, who we're seeing, and I told them going to a game, who they playing, that type of thing. It was actually a very smooth, easy process. On our way, we went. Now we're in Canada. Now we got 7.5 hours worth of driving in Canada, which I wasn't quite sure I was. I remember going to Canada when I was younger. We would go to Toronto. Toronto from Detroit, maybe 4 to 5 hours. We'd go there for different things, and that was nice. And it had been a long time since I personally, really, I guess you could say, never driven through Canada. I was younger when we did it. My dad did it. And then the times that we've gone as an adult with Selena, one time we were on a bus tour, and another time we flew to Toronto when I worked with the airlines. So my first time driving through Canada. I was kind of curious what it'd be like. Good part of it, just pretty flat. I think when we eventually passed through Toronto, we could, that was, they got some skyscrapers, and you get to see some buildings, and there's some things to see with that. But for the most part, it was kind of flat. There was a lot of uh, those like wind turbines at a certain point, not long into it. I would say within the first hour or two of our road trip, we saw a ton of those. If we didn't even count them, but if we would have, there would have been a lot. That could have been a game to play. Count how many wind turbines are on the way. Uh, so we were driving at one point. Now I noticed that we took pretty much one road straight. I think it was 401. Eventually, when we got closer to Ottawa, then we kind of jogged off into some other highway, and we got to there. But for the most part, it was just a straight shot on 401. And along the way, they had these little stop areas. I want to say they were called en route. And eventually, we did stop at one of them around lunchtime. We used the bathroom and got something to eat. And what was kind of cool was that within these stop areas, it's like one building, but within that building, you have a few different um, restaurants, places to eat. Kind of reminds me of like being at a food court. They have a gas station. We didn't get gas then. We were still okay on gas at the moment, but when we went there, we were, obviously we were using the bathroom, and it was lunchtime. We were getting something to eat, so I was hoping to get something that, you know, we didn't necessarily have in the States, but everything that was there, we did. There was Starbucks, there was Burger King, Popeyes, Tim Hortons. They had this thing called Booster Juice, which we didn't have. I think it's kind of like a Jamba Juice or maybe like a Smoothie King, you know, that type of establishment. But I didn't necessarily want a smoothie for lunch. I actually wanted to eat something. We ended up getting Popeyes because we don't usually have Popeyes too often, even though we have it here. We just don't get it that often. So we got Popeyes, and it was pretty good. No honey for the butter, or for the butter, for the biscuit, the butter biscuit. They didn't have any of that, but aside from that, that was pretty good. And they also had a Tim Hortons, which we ended up getting a donut. So we have a ton of Tim Hortons here in Michigan. If you're not from here or don't know what that is, it's a donut place, donut coffee, and they got some food there too. I guess you could say sort of like, Dunkin' Donuts. Tim Horton is from Canada. He was a hockey player many years ago, and eventually it, established, like this donut place and grew big. So it's big in Canada. Eventually came to the States. Uh, I can't say that I know a lot about the person Tim Horton. Who he played for, how good he was, what team. I don't know. I don't know the history of him. I know him more for the donuts and the donut establishments more so than I know that he was a hockey player. I know that much, but the background of him, I don't know. Anyways, I figured it's pretty big in Canada. We have it in the States. We've done it, and donuts. If you know me, donuts are like my top number one dessert. I have such a sweet tooth, and donuts are like number one. Close second might be ice cream, and then after that, everything else is tied for third. I love sweets, but donuts are my top favorite. Now, amongst our area, Tim Hortons, the, their donuts are okay. But they're not my top choice. Um, so I was kind of curious to see, and that's not dogging them or anything. They're just not my top choice. But I was curious to see what a Tim Horton donut from Canada would taste like. Selena was interested too. So we each got one. They were like this Special Olympic type of special donut, and it was like a, a, a chocolate cake donut. It had icing on it. Half of it had like sprinkles, and then there was like whipped cream in the middle. It actually was pretty good. I did enjoy it. Selena, I don't know if Selena ever ate hers, come to think of it, because by the time we got home, still had it. And then I put it aside, so I'm not even sure if she ever ate it. No, well, anyway. Um, so I had that, and and then we also got Popeye. So that was our stop for lunch. And we also brought snacks, and we had snacks and drinks in the car. For a road trip, I think that's something that you need. At least I know I do. You never know when you're gonna get hungry. We bunched on Pringles or whatever the case was, peanuts, chips, whatever we had. And on our way. Also, which was kind of helped. I mean, we had music to listen to, and at one point Selena had her earbuds in. She was playing on her Switch. She brought her Switch, and then I listened to podcasts. Hey, what do you know? I not only create a podcast, I also listen to podcasts. I actually listen to podcasts, is what got me interested in making a podcast to begin with. So she was, doing that. I was doing, listening to the podcast. We listened to music and talk here and there, whatever. It's a long drive. And at one point, we hopped on Zoom. Family member of mine, one of my cousins, kind of got a little thing together on Zoom, and some of the family were there. So we actually hopped on there for, I would say, maybe an hour, 2 hours, whatever it was, and got to talk with some of the family. That was nice. That kind of helped with the drive too. We were scheduled to get in around three something or another, which was fine because game was, at 7. Figured I'd give enough time to check in and rest up a little bit. Well, there was a little, obviously, well, when we sat down, we actually sat down to eat lunch. We didn't take it in the car. I figured with fried chicken, it's not easy to drive and eat fried chicken at the same time. It's not easy to drive and eat anything at the same time, let alone fried chicken. In a biscuit and whatever else came with it. But I get mac and cheese with it. Um, so I decided, let's just sit down and eat it. So that took a little bit of time. That took anywhere between a half hour to 45 minutes to get all the food and sit down, eat it, use the restroom and all that stuff. So that put us a little bit, not behind necessarily, but well, we were scheduled to get in, and it took a little later. And then later on, I think we eventually got off of 401 and we got into whatever the other highway was. Don't remember the name or number. I think it was a number, but whatever it was, I don't remember. Anyways, I'm looking around. I mean, there's nothing around. Looking, nothing, nothing, nothing. And and our gas tank is going down and down and down and down and down. So I finally, I think eventually I asked Selena, can you kind of Google, like, where's the closest gas station? And there was an exit that was coming up, but I didn't see anything. I saw him say sign for food, I had the sign, food that way. I didn't see anything for gas. As soon as I like passed by that exit, she's like, "Oh, I think it was there to the right." Really? Okay. Well, maybe the next one. I'm driving. No, she's looking. I'm waiting for an answer, like, pull off here, pull off there, pull off. Nothing. I'm like, do I need to turn around to go back? So eventually, still wait. Yeah, yeah, let's turn around. So I get off. We have to like backtrack to go. And I don't even think it was that one necessarily, but it was somewhere. And I'm looking like, all right, how many miles do I have left, and how many miles is it to this thing? And it's only like maybe 3 to 4 miles away. Um, and I was like, all right, I'm looking at how much miles are left in the tank. Okay. But as I'm driving toward it, that the mileage just keeps going lower and lower and lower. And of course, you got stuff in a car that's going to affect your mileage. You're running the heat, and it was very cold out. Um, and so, that's all doing it. That's all dragging it down. And I'm getting a little concerned here, has slightly worried. Like, I don't want to be stuck with no gas in the middle of nowhere in Canada when it's, you know, negative whatever degrees outside. Anyways, so I'm getting a little antsy about this. We're driving up, and so she says, okay, at the end of this, there's like a roundabout. There should be a gas station on your right if it's open. It's like if it's open, yeah, but if not, there should be some down the road. All right, so we get there. Thank goodness it's open. Pull in. I pull in with what said 4 miles left in the tank. Whew, that was a close call. Immediately filled up. And it's interesting because now I'm in Canada, so all the things that I'm kind of used to, like instead of miles per hour, now I got to look at kilometers per hour instead of how much it is per gallon. Now it's how much is it per liter, things like that. So whatever it is, I don't even care. Let's put some gas in. I'm not even going to worry about it. And it wasn't until later when I checked my credit card statement, like, oh my goodness, man, it's expensive. Oh well, what can you do? Yeah. So we filled up, used the restroom again, and headed back. So that little detour to get gas also kind of, you know, put us again not behind, but it did have us come in a little bit later. So I want to say we came in probably around like 4 o'clock ish when we finally came in. So as we're coming in, we finally get to civilization. After what I like I said, I saw nothing around for miles. Finally getting into civilization. Now there's a bunch of stuff around. All right, cool. And we probably passed by it, but I just didn't even notice or see it. But where we were staying was super close to the arena. Um, and prior to coming here, years ago, I had met some people from Ottawa, and I actually reached out to them. It had been a long time. Reached out to them to see if maybe we could stay with them. But they mentioned that they had downsized and really couldn't. Went from a house. I think I went from like a house and maybe an apartment or something, and really couldn't swing it. Plus, the guy was battling a cold. It's like, all right, that's understandable. As I mentioned before many times in my podcast, if I can stay with somebody, I'll stay with somebody. Might as well. And you know, take advantage of you know friends, and those friends are welcome to stay with me too if they want to come to Detroit. Open my home up to them. I have no problem with that. Um, but they couldn't, and that's all right. So for the first time ever in my life, I actually tried an Airbnb. I went on there, looked up some things. I looked up some options. I don't know what you want to call them. And there was some that were eyeballing, and then right at the last minute, another one popped up. I guess there was a cancellation pretty close to the arena, and had some good reviews. And I will definitely give a shout out to them. Their name's Cicera, nice man from I think originally from Sri Lanka. Stayed with him. It was him, his daughter, and his dog. Very nice family, very nice dog, very nice home, and definitely give a shout out. Very nice people. Good experience for my first time ever using an Airbnb. If you ever go to Ottawa, and that's someone you want to stay with, you know, it's a nice person to stay with. And we got there, I want to say, like I said, around 4 o'clock. Oh, as we were driving there, again, we're finally around civilization. We're seeing people walking. Walking their dog. It looks like they're walking to the store. Walking. It's it's like -3 degrees outside, and it's just walking like that's part of life. We couldn't believe it. You know, not just one or two stragglers. Like there was quite a few people that we saw walking around. That was funny to us. Maybe I get, probably they're probably used to the cold. I mean, to a degree, we're used to the cold too. They were what felt like a little bit colder than we are, but I mean, I don't think it's like that much higher elevation. I guess I'd have to see, but anyways, regardless, we found that kind of funny. We get there, you got people walking around, and it's frigid outside. We get there and check in, so to speak. We get to the home, they're all there, and again, real nice. Show us to our room, and very clean, very comfortable. Really appreciate that. Really nice family. We kind of mentioned what our plans were. I I actually wanted to go to like a consignment store to see if I could find an Ottawa Senator shirt. I had actually bought one off eBay, but it never came. Like I was waiting for it. I don't know, whatever reason, never came. And I was like, man. So I looked at stores around here. None of them had an Ottawa shirt, and that's, understandable. I'll get a lot of my shirts there. I'll just look and see if there's a team that I could, the shirt can fit me, and the team that I can see or, you know, and or do the podcast with, I'll get it. Didn't find any Ottawa Senator shirt. So I mentioned we'll probably go there, check it out. I saw that there was one not too far, and then go from the game from there. And then, but I wanted to rest a little bit. Tried to take a nap, couldn't quite take a nap. I think the excitement was there. I was going to a game. We got there. It was long, even though it was a long drive, and there was a little bit of tiredness. I couldn't quite get myself to fall asleep. Um, yeah, probably just a little too excited, but rested for a little bit, lay down, rested. But then I had asked, if I was able, if I gave you some money, would you mind taking us and bringing us back? And he was like, oh, okay. So he, how much, and we agreed to a price, and which I really appreciated a lot because um, first off, I just drove a long way, helped save gas, miles on the car that I already, was adding up on that, and then just the hassle of parking, especially which I don't know what they accepted, if they accepted American money, if they didn't, I didn't have any Canadian money on me, all that type of stuff. Um, so I asked, Cicero, if I were to give you some money, would you be willing to do it? And he agreed. So I was really happy about that. Again, really nice guy. Um, we went to the store first. Was looking around. Finally found a shirt, yeah, which was nice. There was a couple shirts. One of them was multicolored. Like, all right, there's one. And this one was there too. And I was like, okay, I'll go with this one. And got it. Actually, Selena found it. She was looking too. And I was like, yeah, some of the things I try to think of because I'm doing this podcast, if it's preferably if it's like on the shoulder, if the logo's like on the shoulder, then I don't feel like I have to be up as high and elevated in order to show the logo. Because, if I can be sitting down a little bit, further down, you can still see it here, but I can't because I try to show the logo of the shirt while I'm doing some kind of like perched up, kind of awkwardly. You got the seat up as high as possible, all that, so I can kind of show it. Um, Anyways, but I still got it. It was still there, and it was Star Wars night. So I had a Star Wars shirt on that I borrowed from a friend. I don't have a Star Wars shirt. I'm not that huge of a Star Wars guy. I don't mind Star Wars. I'm not opposed to Star Wars, but I'm not like diehard fan of Star Wars either. To me, it's entertainment. I'll be entertained by it and then move on with my life. Uh, so I don't have any Star Wars stuff, and it was Star Wars night there. So my thought was, I asked a friend who is a Star Wars fan of mine, or a Star Wars fan himself. He's a friend of mine. If I could borrow one of his shirts, and if I found a shirt at the store, great. If not, I could still blend it with the Star Wars stuff. So he allowed me to borrow it, and I wore that to the game. I had this with me, and once I bought it, I had it with me, and I eventually put it on once the game started. So like at the beginning, when there was a bunch of Star Wars stuff going on, I had the Star Wars thing. Then when the game started, I put this on. And then when we left, I had a Red Wings hoodie to put on because it was super cold out. I'm getting ahead of myself with all that, but it was explaining here a little bit about what I was wearing. So Star Wars night, that was kind of cool. Again, I'll get into that. So we leave, we get this at the store, and we head to the arena. And what was kind of nice about this arena was it was kind of like a standalone arena. When I say that, not that this is an official term, just what I was thinking in my mind. There was no buildings around it. Like some stadiums or arena, they're in a city, and you got a bunch of stuff around it, um, whatever it may be. This was like not quite down. This wasn't downtown Ottawa. I want to say it was in an area called Canada, Kanata, Canada, which is almost like Canada, which I think somehow one of them came from the other, something like that. Anyways, it wasn't quite downtown Ottawa, and that's understandable. Not every team is always in their city. Like if you think of the New York Jets and Giants, they're called New York, but they play in New Jersey. And there's other Philadelphia. They're well, are they? They're not quite downtown Philly either. Anyways, you get the point. They're not every team is always in the downtown area. So Ottawa, not necessarily wasn't. So it was kind of like standalone, nothing around it, and which I like. So like as we were driving to it, you can see it, clear as day because it's like there it is, and you got the parking kind of around it. So it was nice. So I was able to get some pictures, as we were driving towards it. I took some pictures driving towards it when we were going towards the store because there was still some daylight out. And then, when we were going to the game, then it was like nighttime. So I got a little bit of both. And then I think even the next morning, Sunday, when we drove by it to leave, I think Selena got a couple other pictures of it as we came on the other side of it. All right, so we get there and he drops us off pretty close to it, which was again super helpful, especially how cold it was. I mean, it was just so cold. And I got some outside pictures coming in, but then I also like to go take a picture of the sign too. And where they play is the Canadian Tire Center. And I went around to go take a picture of the sign, and just that little bit of just kind of going around and take my phone out to take the picture. Oh, I just think it's so cold. And my hand got so cold doing that. But I got it, and then we started to head towards going in. We went past an entrance. Now the entrance on it said VIP entrance, so I figured, all right, we're not VIP, so let's keep going. But the guy inside was waving us in. There was a couple other guys behind us too. They were just waving us in, and come on in. Like, I'm not VIP. That's okay. Come on in. It's cold out there. It's like, oh, that's nice. And that is one thing that I have noticed. Like Canadians are very very nice people. Um, there was a joke one time. I thought this was funny. It was on a show I saw years ago, and the main cast goes into like a Canadian bar. They're in New York, but there was like a bar. The theme was Canada, and there's Canadians in there. And one guy shoves the guy from behind really hard, just to prove a point. The guy turns around. He's looking mad. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. Let me buy you a beer." Like, he's so funny. He's the one that gets shoved, and he's apologizing and offering a beer. So yeah, just very nice people. And so it was nice. They were like, "Come on in. It's all right. It's cold out there. You don't have to be a VIP." Cool. So we got in there, and like I said, it was Star Wars night that night. And as we walked in, there was like a group of people that were like in costume, and they had all kinds of Star Wars characters that they were dressed up as, and it was part of it. It wasn't like these are fans that came dressed like this. This was part of the experience. They worked for the arena, and we were able to take our picture with them. At first, I just took a picture of them on its own, and then Selena was going to get a picture. I was going to get a picture with her because she's more of a Star Wars fan than I am. And then the lady was there, one of the people that was kind of directing matters. She's like, "Do you want your picture taken too with them?" And I was like, "All right, fine." So I got a picture taken with them too. And so we were on the lower level at that point when we took that picture. And I was kind of looking around thinking, should I take pictures of things that, and I think I did take one picture of just like the logo, and that was about it. Um, Inside corridors, there was, some places to eat, something to get drink, a typical thing when you get in corridors. We weren't sitting on the first level though. We were going to be sitting in the upper deck, the third level, and they had elevators that went up there. All right, cool. We were looking for the elevators, walked around, couldn't find it. Another guy, he told us where they were at. All right, so we went back, basically exactly where we came in at, and we went up there. Once, so our ticket said, it was like section 324. So I was like, all right, let's go to the third floor. No one else was going to the third floor, just us. Everyone was going to first and second. Again, mindful, I'm the only. This is my first time being there. Go up to the third floor. It's like dead silent. Like, okay, this was not what I was. There's nothing here. There's no restaurants. There's no nothing. It's just a little. So everything, I guess, apparently is on the first level and the second level. The third level kind of goes around it, um, which is nice in a way of like we got to the section, and if you're up higher part of the rows, it's easier access to it. But that third level had nothing. It was just. I mean, there might have been a guy selling beer, that kind of thing. That's about it. There's like not, anything else. But we got in there and walked around, found our seats, and we were a little bit further down. We weren't closer to the second level than we were at the third level, even though we were in section 324. Got to our seats, and here we are. Cool. And we were there kind of early, which was nice. So in time, we could see like all the all the pregame stuff that they do. Now they, like I said, because it was Star Wars night, they had some different things. So on their scoreboard, you saw like the Ottawa, Minnesota teams, and one was in red, one was in blue, kind of like those lightsaber type of colors. They had that. Now, and they gave us like a lightsaber too as like a giveaway. And I never opened mine. The friend that gave me the shirt, I might see if he wants it, as a gift from him. He may not, because it has Ottawa, not the Red Wings. He may not want it, but if he does, I'll give it to him. And if not, that's okay. Um, so they had a giveaway for that, but the lightsaber was red. Selena opened hers. She turned hers on. It was red, and like the now from my understanding of it with Star Wars, the bad guys, the Sith guys, they're the red ones. They have the red lightsabers. And Ottawa had it too. So I thought, okay, that's kind of interesting. Wouldn't you guys want to be the good guys? Are you guys saying that you're the bad guys? But then at the same time, Ottawa's colors are red. They have red in it. There's no blue in the Ottawa Senators. There's red, there's black, gold. I don't know whatever else is in there. But there's no blue. So I was like, all right, I guess that kind of makes sense. Um, so like when you saw it, they had the Ottawa was red and Minnesota was kind of on the bluish side, which I guess is kind of the color because I think Minnesota might have some green in their color scheme too. And then they had like what looked like I don't know if it was a stormtrooper or a Mandalorian or whatever, but the Ottawa Senators logo, which is not necessarily this logo. There's a couple logos. One of them is just it's the Senator's face from the side, and they had that, but it was like a Star Trooper or a Mandalorian or one of those Star Wars characters. They had that on there, and it would be flashing back and forth between that and Star Wars Night and whatever else. That was kind of cool. Even on the bench, they had like the Ottawa. I thought this was kind of cool on the benches. They had the Ottawa, but it was kind of with I don't know flames or whatever. Minnesota's was the same. They had them both there. Those were kind of cool. I tried taking pictures of some of these like little effects, whether it was the benches, the scoreboard, um, the little scoreboards that are around like by the seats, not the big scoreboard that hangs in the middle, but there's usually like LED type of scoreboards that are around. They all had kind of some cool effects. I tried taking pictures of those. Also, um, at one point, now this was a little bit later on. I don't think this was to start the game, but I think it was later on, maybe one of the intermissions. They even had like, maybe it was before, but I think it was maybe with the intermission. But they had R2D2 out there, the little trash can looking droid that rolls around and beeps. They had R2, and I think the game was somebody was like blindfolded, and they were trying to go find him, and the crowd was helping them out, like as they got closer, cheering more or something to that effect. But anyways, they had R2D2 on that. Now they have this mascot too. I don't remember the name of it, and surprisingly, it's not like a senator or a warrior or anything like that. It's a or a knight. It's I don't know some kind of animal. But before the game started, part of their pregame that they do, he came out and he had one of the lightsabers. He lit it up, and then everyone else pretty much in the arena lit up their lightsabers too. And that was a pretty cool sight. We were actually in the corridor before the game was started. We wanted to get something to eat, and we were getting. They had a bunch of uh, different food options where we were at, which was really nice. But we decided to go with this place that served poutine, and because we'd never really had poutine before, and if you never had it, it's kind of famous in Canada. It's basically fries and with a bunch of stuff on it. I think the typical thing was like gravy on top of it, which I think Selena got like the original. I got like this chicken bacon ranch one, and it was really good. It was my first time trying it. I tried hers too, and they may have even had some gravy on the bottom of that one as well. It was definitely filling. We probably could have split one, to be honest with you. But we got that. That was free. So we were out there. We were waiting for it, all the pregame, trying to get it before the game started. And then I hear all the pregame stuff going on. Now we were out there when they were skating around and everything, but eventually they go back in and come out later on. They got to resurface the ice. It was at that time that we went back out. Um, so we got some poutine and I could hear him. So I came in. I got to see the mascot with the lightsaber and everyone else with their lightsabers. That was pretty neat. And then eventually the game started. It took a while before we got our first goal, and I was thinking, all right, this is gonna be. Let's hope this isn't a low scoring game. I don't want to come out here and it's like 2-1 or something. We finally got our first goal at the near the end of the first period, and that was by the Ottawa Senators. Again, I'm not an Ottawa fan. I even before the game, I couldn't tell you a single player. I haven't followed it. When I was younger, I could follow it. Like I remember, I think I even took a picture of some of the people on their rafters that they had. One of them I noticed was Alfredson, Daniel Alfredson. I said I remember him, but I haven't followed hockey as much as I used to when I was younger. So I couldn't tell you any of the players. Now, one of the players before they did like a little bio on him. It was Star Wars night. He was kind of talking about Star Wars. He had all these Star Wars tattoos on his arm. Um, Still don't remember what his name was though. I don't know. Anyways, but one of the names, now this made me feel old, that I did recognize, his last name is Kachuk. I was like, all right. Growing up, there was a Kachuk. Now I don't know if the Kachuk that I grew up with, Keith Kachuk, is the dude's father or if it's his uncle. I'm not sure if this kid if he's their son or nephew. I'm not sure. Obviously they're related. That's a unique name. Either way, though, that kind of makes me feel old. Like I remember either his dad or uncle playing in the NHL, and now here I am watching that guy's either nephew or son playing. But I recognize the name. Didn't know he was on the team until then. Um, but he actually, and I think he even scored a goal. I think he's their team captain. And there's some other guys too that. No, yeah, that was. I mean that. Oh no, wait. There was a name I recognized. David Prawn, I think, was another one. There were some names I heard. I think David Pranos. It was on the team, and I was thinking, oh, he's still around. He's been around a while. So him or somebody else that was kind of closer to my age. I'm 40. Like they're still playing in their 30s, which hey, more power to them. Anyways, so they scored a goal at the end of the period. All right, cool. And I'll be a Senators fan for a night. I was cheering with them. Crowd got into it. Crowd was loud. I like that full crowd. And I remember Selena asking me. Well, her dad was asking her. They were texting. Will it be a full stadium? I'm thinking probably, and it was. I mean, I saw not every single seat was taken, but I think it was you know definitely a full crowd. More than likely um, sold out. Well, or at least close to. Let me see. Tire Center. I'm going to see how many. What is the? I forgot to look at the capacity. Is about 18,652. And I want to say it was close to that because they did say this the attendance and it was something like that. So it was uh, full crowd, definitely a good, lively, electrifying atmosphere, which I always appreciate. And the first period, we saw one goal. And it ended up being that every period, whatever period we were in, that's how many goals we saw. First period, one was one goal. Second period, there were two goals. Third period, there were three goals, and that was it. No goals by the Minnesota Wild. So the final score ended up being 6-0. Ottawa just destroyed Minnesota in this game. And and even though it was a blowout, sometimes you like to see tight games. But even though it was a blowout, it was still fun because the crowd was super into it. At the end of the second period, um, one guy, like right off the face-off, he like hit the guy's head, hit his head into his the other, one of the Ottawa guys, his face into the ice, and ended up when they reviewed it. I don't know if they reviewed it or called it right away. I think they thought they reviewed it. It was like, all right, this 5 minute major penalty. Can't be doing that. So if you're not familiar with hockey, um, if someone commits a penalty, they're going to be sitting in a penalty box for a bit, and now your team is down a man. So usually they're skating five players, 5 on 5. But if someone's in the penalty box, now it's 5 on 4, so you have a little bit of advantage. Typically they're like 2 minutes long, but depending on how bad the infraction is, it could be longer. So something like that ended up being 5 minutes. Now normally, while you have that advantage, if you score a goal, it's going to be 2 minutes. They'll come out after 2 minutes. But if you score a goal, the guy comes out as soon as you score. It's done. But with a 5 minute penalty, they call it a major penalty. There is no limit of how many goals you can score. You can continue to score as much as you can in that 5 minute time frame, and that's what happened. They scored a couple. They scored at least one, and altogether, I'll put it this way: they scored like three. But one of them, the other team, Minnesota, committed another penalty. So now it was 5 against 3. They had what they call it a two-man advantage because you have two extra men. That's an advantage on your end. They scored at that point. So when they did it, that guy that committed that other penalty, he came out as soon as that came out. Still 5-on-4. Altogether, there was like three goals in that time frame. And I think I even got a couple of them. One of them I was on like Instagram Live. I caught one of the goals, and then the other one, I actually just was recording and was able to get it. I was like, all right, cool. It's not, always, you never know when you're able to record a goal live. So that was cool. Again, 6-0 and full crowd. Really appreciated that. Nice lively atmosphere, and also too, something I thought that was very unique. Uh, I don't recall seeing this at many other arenas. Possibly Carolina, but I don't even know that. But they had first off, they have an organ. Not every arena has organ. Some do. Not all of them. They had a live organ that was really cool. But they also had a live band. I think it was like a hard rock cafe area. It was close to where the organ was. So I was able to kind of take a picture of both at the same time. And they had a live band, and I guess that's something that they'll have like every game. And during the intermissions, they'll bring out the live band and they'll play music. Um, there was a bit of a few country songs that they played, which I was thinking, we're not in the South, right? I mean, we are in Canada. This is North. They're the maybe they're the country people of Canada. I don't know. Anyways, but they had other stuff too. And one guy, first off, that's unique. I don't see that very often in in hockey arenas, a live band area. Like I said, maybe Carolina or Dallas. They may have, but it's not common. So that was unique in itself too. But then this one band, I didn't catch the name of these guys, and I guess I asked afterwards, and they say that it's not always the same band. They'll have other different bands come in. But whoever this band was, again, I didn't catch their name. They played songs, but at the one guy, he was doing like a yodeling, and he was like really good at it. And I'm no yodel expert, believe me, I've never listened to yodeling, and I've never heard it live before. Like the only times I've ever heard anyone yodel is like on a show or movie or something like that. Never have I heard it live, and it was actually really impressive. I have to, whoever they are, I'll give them a shout out from here. Good job on that. So that was really cool, really unique, having that live band, live music performance during the intermission. And what else? And if I can take pictures of banners, I will. So the Ottawa Senators, they had some championships that they showed like from the early 1900s, and I don't know if that was the official Stanley Cup, like what they all play for now. Um, it some kind of cup, and I thought I did see Stanley Cup, but yeah, it may have been a different one because I don't recall when the Stanley Cup came into existence for the NHL. Um, anyways, there was some of that, but uh, there was. Let me see here. They won. There was two banners that they had up. One was for 2003, the President's Trophy, which I mean, going back 2003, that's like an older teenager at that point. Uh, and so the President's Trophy, I believe, is you got the best record in the NHL at the end of the season, going into the playoffs. Um, so they must have had it then. I don't. That is a vague memory. And then they had an Eastern Conference championship in 2007, and that I did remember. That one, if I remember correctly, they won the East. They went to the Stanley Cup Finals, but lost to the Anaheim Ducks. That was the only recollection in my memory of them having any association with the Stanley Cup. From what I can recall going back, they've never won the Stanley Cup in my lifetime that I've been following hockey or known of hockey. And according to those banners, I don't know if they've done it at all in the recent history. I guess I could look up their history, but anyway. But that's what they had. I did take a picture of those two. So good. I mean, definitely a good fan base, and no more than likely. I mean, if they were to ever get to the Stanley Cup or win the Stanley Cup, I'm sure that the fan base would be highly supportive. It would be really fun and good for them, for their city. They you could tell that they love it. Now hockey in Canada is definitely something that's huge. I mean, that's like their NFL, right? This is the NHL, their hockey team. When I used to work for the Red Wings and was an usher, anytime a Canadian team came in, didn't have to be just the Canadian team they're playing. Like Toronto, for instance, is the closest Canadian team that the Red Wings will play. So even if, let's say, Vancouver came in, you get people from Canada to watch the game. When Toronto came in, oh boy, I mean, like half the arena was Maple Leaf fans. But even if it was Vancouver, if it was Edmonton, if it was Ottawa, if they played a Canadian team, a lot of Canadian teams came in to watch the game. They really love hockey, and even if it wasn't their team, they would still, come to watch their country's sport. So definitely um, definitely big with them. As far as I know, I mean, they were like on a winning streak. They had it was like a 4 game home streak. I think they won all their games, including that one that we went to. At the moment, so this is recording here in February 2025. At the moment, they're in the playoffs. Now, how the season will end out, and where they end up, and how well they'll do, I guess time will tell. But at the moment, they're doing all right. So they should. At the moment, they're in the playoffs if they can keep it up. And again, we'll just see how things go with that. But fun night again with the Star Wars, seeing them play and shut them out. That was cool. Selena got to come with me. She enjoyed it. That was nice. When we were done, we texted Cicera, who we were staying with, and he I don't know if the text didn't go through or what happened there. So we went down um, and called him. Then he had a response, and so he's like, "Okay, I'll come and get you, but stay inside. It's cold out. Will do." Had no desire to be going out there, and we just kind of just walked around a little bit. We talked to one of the members. That's where I asked her about the band, um, and real friendly people. Eventually, he was just kind of coming around the corner from where he had dropped us off. And so we started heading out. And as soon as we got out there, as soon as we cut across traffic, he pulled up. And I was like, perfect timing. Super nice that he was willing to do that. It was so helpful. And we went back to his house. And by the time we got in, I think his daughter was asleep. The dog might have been too. It was late, but not super late. 10, 11 o'clock ish. Everyone was going to bed. And the next morning, I told him we were our goal was to leave around 7. And sure enough, just like Saturday, our goal was 7. We left maybe a few minutes after. He was said that he would be up, and then I think he was still asleep, which was fine. We put everything back or whatever we needed to do, and we took our stuff and headed out and made our way out. Gas was okay. We stopped. Now, it didn't take us 401 going back. We eventually got back to 401, but it was later on. So we were kind of going through like all these small towns, and it took us like a different route. As we're leaving, like I said, we got to pass by the arena one more time. I think Selena got a couple more pictures, which is nice. Um, we stopped at Tim Hortons. Selena wanted a coffee, and I got like a little breakfast sandwich. And that was actually the only time we ended up stopping for food. We snacked on the way, and we had stopped for. Did we stop any time more after that? Yeah, to use the bathroom once, I think. Anyways, but yeah, we were going through like a small town, all these small towns, and through the mountains. I mean, you could definitely tell we were even on the way there, way back. Well, there was like some mountains. Eventually, we went through Toronto, but we were like north of it, from like where the downtown area was. So I think whatever road we took was more north than where 401 was, and eventually we did meet up at 401. Could see the CN Tower from a distance. That was kind of cool. And it started snowing at one point. The whole weekend was cold, but as we were coming back, we hit like a snowstorm, and yeah, nothing too exciting on the way back. But coming back when we went through I mean, now, this time there was a bunch of cars, waited a while, and the line we were in took forever. And I see the line next to us keep moving. I'm like, man, I should have went that line. Of course, I picked the wrong line, and should have known something. This guy was a little overeager with his job. What do you do for work? Travel agent. What do you sell to? What do you sell? Just ask all. I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? Makes me pop my trunk for whatever reason. I don't know. Took forever. I was kind of annoyed. Like I hadn't eaten. Like we were just snacking. I was really so now we're back to running low on gas again. I'm looking at it like, all right, how many miles do I have? We're gonna get the next. And now he's sitting there taking forever with this and asking me all kinds of dumb questions. I get it. He's doing his job, but I don't know. It was just kind of annoying at the time. Maybe I was a little angry. Who knows? Finally went through that. You know, got back. Uh, Try to find some gas. I know we did find a gas station, but when I saw the price, I'm like, oh, I'm just putting in $5 just to get us home, and that was it. Got home. Um, I still got to put in gas. Come to think of it now, I haven't needed to. I haven't really gone out too much. Like I said, I didn't come home and do a day of like last time with Tennessee. It's a couple days later, but I haven't done a ton of driving since. So. Um, didn't have to necessarily put gas in yet, but it's low. I need to put it in soon. Fun trip though, fun little weekend trip, just like it was with Tennessee. Tennessee, I was by myself, so there was similarities in that. Drive in, day of, check in, go to the game, drive back. About an 8 hour, 7, 8 hour trip. Um, the difference was, different location. Last time I was by myself. This time I had Selena. Last time I was in a hotel. This time I was in an Airbnb, and had a good time. Nice experience, nice memory for a hockey game. Definitely enjoyed it. So out of all the Canadian teams, I've seen now two. Another one was the Montreal Canadiens. I'll have to do that in another podcast. And no, I've seen the Toronto Blue Jays too. That would be another podcast as well, but that's not hockey. Yeah, so it's a little different going to Canada. Obviously, like I said, different money, different currency. When I saw my credit card statement, I was like, oh, okay, you got all these like international processing fees, and you see a different currency, which in a way is kind of good because when you might see there, this is just for instance, you're paying $100, you're like, oh my goodness, but then you get the credit card statement, and it was like, oh, it's $80, or something like that. Um, yeah, and then driving kilometers instead of miles per hour, just things you get used to here in the States. But it was still nice and had a good time. And if it's something that you'd like to do, if you want to go see the Ottawa Senators, let me know. If you want to see any other game, if you want to go on vacation, go on a cruise specifically, let me know. Be happy to do that for you. Again, you can reach out to me at j.paradise@gmail.com. That's Jay. Or you can reach out to me through social media, Jay's Paradise Travels, on either Instagram or Facebook. That's another way that you can reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to do that for you. And I also now have um, ability to like make appointments with me to be able to have my dedicated time at a certain time slot. So that's always nice. And yeah, appreciate you listening to this episode here today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked it. Hope you learned something from it. And please, if you did, please like it. Please like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with others. All of that interaction. Please make comments if you have any comments about the Ottawa Senators. Maybe you've been there, or maybe you like them, or you've seen them, or whatever. If there's some kind of story, some kind of memory that you have of the Ottawa Senators, please feel free to share, and be more than happy to read those and even comment on that. But yeah, any interaction, always appreciate. So feel free to do that. And again, thanks for listening. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day. Take care. Bye bye.